On National Signing Day a year ago, Anthony made his way to Cedartown, Georgia to interview the state's top running back. He had put up impressive numbers in high school, but some experts wondered if that was because he played against a weaker competition. That player was current Georgia Bulldog running back Nick Chubb. Chubb averaging 244 yards per game his senior season. He scored 41 touchdowns, and that success continued, of course, as we know, at Georgia. Chubb used sparingly in Georgia's first 5 games as a freshman and then showed flashes of brilliance. When Todd Gurley suspended, Chubb took over. The former Cedartown Bulldog amassed over 1,500 yards, averaged 7.1 yards per carry, and scored 14 touchdowns for Georgia this last year. Here's a look back at what he told Anthony a year ago.
What are your expectations as you head to Athens as a true freshman?
I mean, true freshman, it'll be hard, but, they showed that they'll play the best running back. I'm all for that. I'll go in and give my best, and hopefully I can get some playing time.
Getting some playing time, obviously, you're going to have, a couple of studs in front of you, and Todd Gurley and Keith Marshall, both of whom should be 100% healthy by the time fall comes around. What's your mindset as you go in knowing that you have excellent running backs, with good resumes there that are going to be, in all likelihood in front of you on the depth chart?
That's a good thing. That's how I look at it. I can go and learn from those guys. They're both very good running backs, and I can learn a lot from them and take what they have, and apply it to myself and become a better running back for me.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, he says a year ago, I'm just hoping I can get some playing time.
Just get me on the field maybe for a few plays.
Yeah, he ends up the last game of the year, 266 yards rushing, an all-time Georgia Bowl record, and over 1,500 yards as a freshman. Meanwhile, Gainesville's Deshaun Watson was the state's top quarterback recruit a year ago. Pretty easy to understand why. Yeah. Watson totaled 13,000 passing yards, 4,000 rushing, and an unbelievable 217 touchdowns as a Gainesville Red Elephant. And he chose Clemson. As a true freshman, Watson started the season as a backup. It was simply too good for Dabo Swinney to keep off the field. Ended up with 1,400 yards passing, 14 scores, despite missing time due to a knee injury. All right, and we welcome back former Georgia quarterback DJ Shockley. DJ, both Chubb and Watson, very impressive seasons as true freshmen. Are both of them viable Heisman Trophy candidates as sophomores?
Easily, because you look at what their team needs. Their team needs both of them in a major way. You look at Chubb, they're going to be dependent upon him to carry the load a lot. He did a lot for them last season. They're going to be bringing in a new quarterback, whoever that may be. They're going to need Chubb to carry the load for them. And Deshaun Watson, on the other end, he showed flashes this year. He made that team better. And at the quarterback position, he's going to have every single chance to touch that football every single play and make some plays with it. And that Clemson team is just better with him at the helm. And both those guys have the opportunity, and they're going to have a prime time setup to be able to show people why they should be playing or why they should be, in that Heisman race.
I remember even going back to the season opener against Georgia in Athens. True freshman, first college football game. The Clemson offense had done nothing.
Big spark, yeah.
And then he comes in and they score like that.
I remember Georgia people saying, I hope he doesn't come back in because he played so well. He didn't look like a true freshman. He was just so poised, and you can see certain guys just have that it factor, and both those guys have it about him.
Without a question. I remember he committed, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but to Clemson, I think after his sophomore year.
Early,
so he was early. He was an early enrollee, always preparing, always studying film. Sky's the limit for him.
And, well, here's the thing about quarterbacks these days. They're getting taught so many different things early.
Right.
They get to go all these different camps. They get all these. He went to the Manning camp. They do a lot of different things now that prepare them so that when they step into college,
they're good,
ready
to go.
They're
not using that freshman year or that redshirt year to get caught up.
Absolutely.
They already know what's going in.
Absolutely.
All right, now that National Signing Day, folks, are nearly in the books for this 2015 year, let's take a quick look forward at some of the players we'll be talking about next season. We start with big Julian Rochester.
He is big.
Man! He's 17 years old. Currently listed as the #1 recruit in Georgia for 2016. He's 6'5.5 inches. Got to give him that half inch. 300 pounds. He plays defensive tackle for McEacher. We saw him several times this season on WSBTV.com in our Game of the Week. Truly a man among boys. He has offers from the country's elite programs and has made unofficial visits to Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, and Florida State, among other programs. The nation's #1 recruit at tight end in 2016 class played for Buford this past year, but his father has a new job in Florida. That's Isaac Nauta, so he's headed south. He enrolled at the IMG Academy, where he'll line up at the state of Florida's #2 player overall. Nauta already verbally committed to Florida State, but as we've seen today, verbal commitments not really stand for much.
I couldn't hear you a whole lot, Zach. Vander was screaming in my ear. But also, in case you missed it this season, Evander Holyfield's son, Elijah, making a pretty good name for himself. His dad was the real deal in the ring. Elijah dishes out blows to would-be tacklers as a running back. The Woodward Academy star has early offers from Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and dozens of other schools. Holyfield burst onto the scene this past season, scoring 7 touchdowns in one game, and he continued racking up impressive performances throughout the year, even helping the War Eagles snap Sandy Creek's 44-game region win streak, which spanned 7 years. Hopefully Eric Swinney is gone and doesn't have any bad memories from that night.
That's right. All right. But that was looking ahead to 2016. Let's wrap up 2015. It's been a crazy few days again this year. Let's talk some final thoughts.
Let's start with DJ. What do you think? Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson a year ago. Give us a player or two from the state to keep an eye on for the upcoming season. Who might make their mark as a true freshman this season?
There's a guy that's going to Georgia. We talked about him when we first started, and Trent Thompson, big defensive lineman from Westover High School, has all the ability, has all the size, the strength, the speed. He has all the ability, the intangibles that everybody talks about to be a next-level guy. We talked about how Georgia's losing some key guys up front in that middle. He can be the guy up front who can really, really have a huge role this season and make a major impact for the Dogs coming in early.
Always a few surprises on signing day. Anthony, let's start with you. What was the big surprise in your eyes today?
The biggest one for me, I guess, Darius Slayton. I mean, before last night, everybody thought he would be a Bulldog, and all of a sudden now he's going to Auburn to play for Gus Malzahn and going there to play receiver, as he indicated to me this morning. So he's just one of those, DJ and I were talking about him, he's one of those guys that just looks the part. I mean, you see him in this video, he just looks like an athlete.
Well, when I watch film on him, he's smooth in his route, he's crisp, he runs, he has an edge about him, he's a little emotional out there.
But like you said, he's smooth.
Yeah.
Smooth is the one adjective.
And when you talked with him this morning, did you sense that he was comfortable, at peace with his decision?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I mean, he's a calm, cool guy anyway. So, I mean, even if he wasn't, he wouldn't let on.
Right.
But, yeah, he's completely happy with it. Had all types of Auburn gear there. And you can look forward to big things, I think, from that young man in that Gus Malzahn offense next year.
What about you, DJ? Biggest surprise today?
I think Slade had to be for me as well. I mean, everybody talked about him going to Georgia, watched the film on him. I thought I was pretty excited to see him, and then hit her news last night. I just couldn't get over how good he was. And I thought he was going to be a huge for the Dogs because they needed some receivers. But him going to Auburn, it's going to be a big pickup for them. So that was the biggest one for me is Slayton going there. And so it's going to be big for him.
Real quick, biggest surprise for me, no live animals this year.
No.
Isaiah Crowell,
Props,
no puppies,
right?
no alligators, no pigs. It was that was the biggest surprise.
Also Raekwon Smith, UCLA.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say, too, also school-wide, in terms of a team, not just for one player, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And to be,
Making a
And
push.
as of
UCLA.
right now, the number 2
Making a
class,
push.
Butch Jones, making some noise. So that SEC East is going to be a barn burner in 2015.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of Sports Zone Signing Day, brought to you by our friends at Mottlick & Associates, for DJ Shockley, Michael Carvel, and also the fantastic crew behind the scenes, Laura Reed, Justin Reed, Nelson Hicks, a cast of thousands. Thank you so much for putting this spectacular on today. Please check out our Sports Zone Facebook page, and on Twitter, you can hit us up at @SZON2 for latest and greatest signing updates throughout the day. Thanks again for joining us live on WSBTV.com. We'll see you tonight at 6 on the Channel 2 Action News. Have a great rest of the day, folks.